Here is a simple test I want you to do right now. Without using your hands, try to stand up from the chair you are sitting in. Go ahead, I'll wait. If you needed to push off with your arms, if your knees trembled on the way up, or if it took you more than one try, that is not normal aging. That is your body sending you a very specific warning signal. And today, I am going to decode that signal for you. Because what most people, including many doctors, have missed is this. Leg weakness after 60 is almost never just about muscle loss. It is about a chain reaction happening at the cellular level. A chain reaction that 3 specific vitamins can interrupt, reverse, and in many cases completely stop. These are not trendy supplements. They are not expensive. And the research behind them is not new. It has just been dramatically underreported. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly which vitamins, which forms, which doses, and which timing gives your legs the best possible chance of coming back stronger, no matter your age and no matter how long this has been going on. Now, before I reveal those 3 vitamins ranked from important to absolutely critical, I need to share something that changed how I think about leg health in older adults entirely. A few years ago, I had a patient. His name was Howard, 67 years old, former school principal, sharp as a tack mentally, but physically he was shrinking, not in height, in capability. He told me, 6 months ago, I walked my granddaughter through the park every Saturday. Now I can't get to the mailbox without my knees locking up. Howard was not injured, his x-rays were clear, his heart was functioning well, but his legs, his foundation had begun to give out. We ran a comprehensive nutrient panel, and what we found was something I now see routinely in patients over 60, a triple deficiency. 3 specific vitamins, all critically low, all working against each other's absence. Fix one, and the others become more effective. Neglect all 3, and the body quietly loses its ability to maintain leg strength, nerve signaling, and overnight muscle repair. Howard followed the protocol I'll share today. Within 10 weeks, he was back at that park. My name is Dr. Elias, and in this video, I will walk you through the 3 vitamins every adult over 60 must know about to protect, preserve, and supercharge their leg strength. We'll go in order from number 3 to number 1, from important to the most critical of all. And I promise number 1 is going to surprise you. Before we dive in, drop a comment below. Tell me, where are you watching from? How old are you? And do you notice any leg weakness, stiffness, or cramping during the day or night? I read every comment and respond with personalized thoughts. So do not hold back. Now, let's get into it. Number 3, vitamin D3, the hormone your muscles are starving for. Most people call it the sunshine vitamin. But let me stop you right there, because that label has caused a dangerous misunderstanding. Vitamin D3 is not just a vitamin. It is a hormone precursor, and your muscles, especially in your legs, have receptors for it. That means without enough D3, your muscle cells literally cannot receive the growth and repair signals they need. Let me be direct. Over 70% of adults above age 60 are clinically deficient in vitamin D3, according to data published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. That is not a small number. That is the majority. And here is what that deficiency actually does to your legs, because this is where most people get it wrong. Vitamin D3 is directly involved in something called muscle protein synthesis, the process by which your body builds and repairs muscle fibers after daily use. When D3 is low, this process slows dramatically. Your legs work all day, then they try to repair themselves overnight, and they simply cannot. Day after day, week after week, the repair debt builds, and that is what you feel as weakness. There's a name for this progressive muscle loss, sarcopenia, and research published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society confirms that low vitamin D3 is one of its strongest modifiable risk factors. In other words, correcting D3 is one of the few things that can actually slow or reverse sarcopenia in older adults. Let me give you a real picture. A 2019 systematic review in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism analyzed 30 randomized controlled trials involving more than 5,500 adults. The conclusion? Vitamin D supplementation showed meaningful improvements in lower limb muscle strength, particularly in adults who were deficient at baseline. Now, here's a question I get all the time. I go outside every day. Why would I be deficient? Here is the hard truth. After age 60, your skin produces approximately 50 to 75% less vitamin D3 from the same sun exposure compared to when you were younger. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that a 70-year-old generates 4 times less vitamin D3 from sun exposure than a 20-year-old, even in identical conditions. Sunscreen use, window glass, cloud cover, and spending more time indoors all compound this. And if you live above the 35th parallel anywhere north of Atlanta, Georgia, your sun exposure from October through March provides almost zero vitamin D3 production, regardless of how much time you spend outside. So your legs are quietly running a deficit that sunlight alone cannot fix. What D3 does for your legs specifically? First, it reduces chronic microinflammation inside muscle tissue. That deep aching or burning in your thighs and calves is frequently this kind of low-grade internal inflammation, not just old age. D3 acts as an anti-inflammatory signal at the cellular level. Second, D3 activates muscle fiber contraction efficiency. A 2020 study published in Nutrients found that seniors who supplemented with vitamin D3 demonstrated statistically significant improvements in grip strength, gait speed, and lower limb power within 12 weeks. Third, and this is crucial, D3 supports the production of IGF-1, a growth factor that tells your muscles to rebuild and stay strong. Without adequate D3, IGF-1 production declines, and your legs lose a key anabolic signal. What about dose? Most adults over 60 benefit from 2,000 to 4,000 IU of vitamin D3 daily. I strongly recommend getting a blood test first, specifically your 25-hydroxy vitamin D level. An optimal range for muscle function is generally between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter. Many seniors I see are below 20, and that is where the real damage begins. Critical rule: always take vitamin D3 with fat. It is fat soluble, meaning it cannot be properly absorbed without dietary fat. A small handful of nuts, a spoon of peanut butter, a piece of avocado, that's all you need alongside your capsule. And always choose D3, cholecalciferol, not D2, ergocalciferol. D3 is the form your body naturally produces and uses. D2 is far less effective at raising blood levels. Now here's what I want you to notice. D3 brings calcium into your bloodstream, but getting calcium into the blood is only half the mission. The other half? Getting it to the right place. That is where vitamin number 2 comes in, and it is the nutrient that acts as calcium's GPS system. Before we move on, drop your name and your age in the comments. I'd love to know who I'm talking to today. Number 2, vitamin K2, the missing co-pilot for your bones, joints, and muscle recovery. Let me ask you something. Have you ever taken calcium supplements religiously, but still experienced joint stiffness, knee pain, or weak legs? I have heard this story hundreds of times, and the answer almost always comes down to the same missing piece: vitamin K2. This is not vitamin K1, the blood-clotting vitamin you find in spinach and kale. Vitamin K2 is a completely different compound. It does something remarkable. It controls where calcium ends up in your body. Here is what happens without enough K2. You absorb calcium through your diet or your supplements. It enters the bloodstream thanks to D3. But without K2 to direct it, that calcium has no guidance system. And research shows it begins depositing in places you absolutely do not want it: your arterial walls, your joints, and the soft tissue surrounding your muscles. This is called ectopic calcification, calcium in the wrong place. And it creates a double problem. Your bones become more fragile because the calcium is not arriving there. Meanwhile, your joints stiffen and your muscle tissue hardens from the misdirected deposits. Your legs feel tight, achy, and less responsive. A landmark 2004 study published in the Journal of Nutrition, the Rotterdam study, followed over 4,800 adults and found that those with the highest dietary intake of vitamin K2 had significantly lower rates of arterial stiffness and cardiovascular events. But here's the piece people miss. Arterial stiffness directly reduces blood flow to the legs, When your leg arteries lose elasticity, your muscles receive less oxygen during activity. That is why so many seniors feel their legs give out after just a few minutes of walking. Their circulation is being undermined by misdirected calcium. Now let's talk about what K2 does directly for muscle function. K2 activates a protein called osteocalcin, produced by bone cells, which does something remarkable. It functions as a hormone. It enters the bloodstream and signals muscle cells to improve insulin sensitivity and glucose uptake. In simple terms, osteocalcin tells your leg muscles, take in fuel, use it efficiently, and produce more power. A 2019 study published in the Journal of Bone and Mineral Research found that higher osteocalcin levels correlated directly with better physical performance, muscle strength, and gait speed in adults over 65. And K2 is what activates osteocalcin in the first place. Here's another layer. K2 also activates matrix GLA protein, MGP, the body's most potent natural inhibitor of soft tissue calcification. Think of MGP as the cleanup crew that prevents calcium from hardening your muscle fascia and connective tissue. Without activated MGP, your leg muscles gradually lose their elasticity. They feel rubbery, rigid, and slow to respond. That stiffness you feel when you first stand up in the morning, that is frequently underactivated MGP at work. A clinical example that stuck with me. I want to share a patient I'll call Eleanor. She was 72, an avid gardener, but she had been forced to stop kneeling because her knees had become so painful and stiff that even getting back up off the floor required help. She had been taking calcium and vitamin D faithfully for years, but her K2 was essentially zero. Within 8 weeks of adding MK7K2 to her routine alongside her existing D3, she reported that the constant deep ache in her knees had noticeably reduced. By week 12, she was back in her garden. Her movement was not what it was at 50, but it was dramatically better than it had been in years. That is K2 redirecting calcium, reducing soft tissue calcification, and allowing joint mechanics to function more normally. Form and dose. The most bioavailable form of K2 is MK7, menaquinone 7. It has a significantly longer half-life than MK4, meaning it stays active in your body for days rather than hours, providing more consistent calcium regulation. Look for at least 100-200 micrograms daily. Critically, K2 is also fat-soluble, so take it with your vitamin D3 and with a small fat-containing snack. They are biological partners and absorb better together. And for anyone on blood-thinning medications like warfarin, please speak with your physician before adding K2, as it can interact with anticoagulant therapy. This is one of those non-negotiable conversations. Now, we have covered what gets calcium into your blood. We have covered what directs that calcium properly. But there is one more piece, the piece that keeps your nervous system connected to your muscles. Without it, everything else we have discussed delivers incomplete results. This is number one, the vitamin most seniors are deficient in. The one that, when missing, silently severs the communication line between your brain and your legs. If you're still watching and this is helping you, type the number 2 in the comments so I know you're here with me. Number 1, vitamin B12, the nerve highway your legs cannot function without. I saved this one for last, not because it is the newest or most exotic supplement, but because it is the most frequently overlooked, the most misunderstood, and in my clinical experience, the single deficiency that most consistently explains why older adults feel their legs disconnecting from the rest of their body. Here is the fundamental truth about leg strength that most people never hear. Your legs are only as strong as the nerves controlling them. You could have perfect muscle mass, you could have excellent calcium levels and sufficient D3, but if the nerve signals traveling from your brain, down your spinal cord, and into your leg muscles are degraded, you will feel weak, you will feel unsteady. Your legs will not respond the way they should. This is exactly what vitamin B12 deficiency does. And it does it silently, gradually, and in a way that is almost universally misattributed to just getting older. Here is the physiology. B12 is essential for the production and maintenance of the myelin sheath, a protective, insulating layer wrapped around every nerve fiber in your body, including the long motor nerves that run from your spinal cord down into your quadriceps, calves, and feet. Think of myelin as the rubber coating on an electrical wire. When B12 is low, that coating begins to thin and deteriorate. The signals still fire, but they arrive late, distorted, or incomplete. The result? Legs that feel sluggish, calves that cramp at night, feet that tingle or go numb, a feeling of walking on foam or cotton, knees that buckle unpredictably, all classic signs of early demyelination caused by B12 deficiency. Now here is the alarming part about absorption. According to the National Institutes of Health, research estimates that up to 40% of older adults have insufficient B12 levels, not because they are not eating B12-containing foods like eggs, fish, and meat, but because after age 60, the stomach produces significantly less intrinsic factor, a protein manufactured by stomach cells that is required to absorb B12 from food. Without sufficient intrinsic factor, you can eat all the salmon and beef you want, and your B12 will still decline year after year. This is an age-related physiological change, not a failure of will or diet, and it means that food sources alone become increasingly inadequate after 60. The neurological connection to falls. A 2014 study published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society followed adults over 65 and found that those with B12 deficiency had significantly impaired proprioception, the body's ability to sense its own position in space. Proprioception is what tells you where your foot is when you take a step. When it degrades, balance deteriorates and fall risk rises sharply. The same study found that B12 deficient participants had measurably slower nerve conduction velocity, meaning the signals from the brain were taking longer to reach the legs. In practical terms, your brain says move and your leg responds slowly. That fraction of a second delay is the difference between catching yourself and falling. This is not abstract. Falls are the leading cause of injury death in adults over 65. And B12-related nerve degradation is a directly addressable contributor. What recovery looks like, I think of my patient Gerald, 70 years old, retired engineer. He came to me with what he described as legs that feel like they belong to someone else. He would swing his right leg slightly outward when he walked because he wasn't getting reliable feedback from his foot. His neurologist had tested him for early Parkinson's. The tests were inconclusive. We tested his B12. It was at 180 picograms per milliliter. The lower end of the lab reference range is typically listed as 200, but research now suggests that neurological symptoms can begin appearing below 400, a threshold many labs still don't flag as deficient. After 8 weeks of daily sublingual methylcobalamin at 1000 mg/g, Gerald came back in. That outward swing was gone. He said the feeling of control had returned to his right foot. Was it dramatic? No. But to him, it was the difference between feeling safe, walking independently, and not. Form matters enormously here. The standard cyanocobalamin form found in most multivitamins requires your body to convert it before use, a step that becomes less efficient with age and in people with certain genetic variants. Methylcobalamin is the neurologically active form. Your body can use it immediately, and because absorption through the gut declines with age due to reduced intrinsic factor, sublingual delivery, small tablets that dissolve under the tongue, bypasses the digestive system entirely and delivers B12 directly into the bloodstream through oral mucosa. For seniors with absorption challenges, this is not just an option, it is the preferred route. Suggested starting dose 1000 mg/g of sublingual methylcobalamin daily. This is well within safe limits. B12 has no established upper tolerable intake level because excess is excreted through urine. But if you have been deficient for years, it may take 3 to 6 months of consistent supplementation to fully rebuild nerve function and myelin integrity. Patience matters. If you've made it this far and you're getting value from this, type the number 1 in the comments. Now let me pull this all together in the simplest way possible, because consistency beats complexity every time. The 3-vitamin evening protocol. Step 1, vitamin B12. Take 1000 mcg of sublingual methylcobalamin about 30 to 45 minutes before bed. Place it under your tongue and let it dissolve fully. Do not eat or drink anything for 10 minutes after. No digestion needed, it goes straight to work. Step 2, vitamin D3 plus K2 together. Take these simultaneously with a small fat-containing snack, a few almonds, a spoon of natural peanut butter, half an avocado. D3 and K2 are biological partners. They absorb better together and they function better together. Think of D3 as the fuel and K2 as the steering wheel. Use D3 at 2000 to 4000 IU and K2 as MK7 at 100 to 200 mcg. Take this combination 20 to 30 minutes before bed. The bedtime window is not arbitrary. Your body releases the majority of its growth hormone during the first 90 minutes of deep sleep. Muscle and nerve tissue repair happens predominantly during this window. Having these nutrients circulating in your bloodstream when that process begins is the difference between partial recovery and full recovery. 3 additional habits that amplify your results. First, hydrate between meals, not just at meals. Mild dehydration reduces blood viscosity and slows nutrient delivery to muscle tissue. Aim for small sips of water consistently throughout the day. Stop 60 to 90 minutes before bed to protect sleep quality. Second, make your last meal light and protein-rich. A heavy, starchy dinner increases overnight inflammation and impairs fat-soluble vitamin absorption. Lean protein, vegetables, and a modest amount of healthy fat. That's your ideal pre-supplement evening meal. Third, 5 minutes of light leg movement before bed, seated leg raises, ankle circles, slow calf raises at the wall. You are not exercising, you are opening circulation so nutrients can reach the muscles that need them most. A 2021 study in geriatric rehabilitation found that even brief pre-sleep limb movement meaningfully increased overnight blood flow to lower extremity muscles. Let's bring it all home. Vitamin D3 not just for bones. It fuels muscle protein synthesis, fights microinflammation, and activates the growth signals your leg muscles need to rebuild every night. Vitamin K2, the traffic controller. It directs calcium to your bones and joints, activates osteocalcin for muscle energy, and prevents the stiffness and calcification that silently steal your mobility. Vitamin B12, the nerve guardian. It protects and repairs your myelin sheath, restores nerve to muscle signal speed, and is the single most under-tested deficiency in adults over 60. Together, they form a recovery system your legs have likely been waiting years for. Before we move on, I want to tell you something. This video is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your physician or licensed healthcare provider before starting any new supplement regimen, especially if you are taking prescription medications, blood thinners, or managing a chronic health condition. If you started today's video feeling uncertain about your legs, I hope you are ending it with clarity and a plan. Drop a comment with one thing you are going to start tonight. And if you want to take this even further, my next video reveals the 5 foods that actively destroy leg strength in adults over 60. Foods that are considered healthy, foods you might be eating every single day. You will not want to miss it. Thank you for being here. Stay strong. Your legs are counting on you.